Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim, and today we are going to talk about some songs from The Big Chair by Tears for Fears. So, dude.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Where do you even want to start?
I was just going to say, I probably wasn't as familiar with this as a whole album. I think growing up, it's something that I think my dad had like the CD and had greatest hits. But the funny thing about it, man, is like a lot of the songs on this album are on the greatest hits.
Yeah,
like,
at least four of them, right?
I believe so. I mean, dude, 6 of the 8 songs were released as singles. I mean, that's kind of badass.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of things I was thinking about this. Now, I was introduced to this. I mean, I knew the singles, right? And especially, you knew Shout, you knew Everybody Wants to Rule the World because we grew up in the 80s. I have to say, I don't think I really knew Head Over Heels as much until Donnie Darko. Which that scene, and I think we talked about this in something else. It's like you cannot separate that scene from the song anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and the one thing that I didn't know, I mean, I know we're just like jumping into sort of the tracks a little bit here, but I also didn't know that like Broken, the Tears for Fears version.
Yeah, I was going to say not the Nine Inch Nails version, just making sure.
Very, very different. Yeah, if you're looking these up track by track, make sure you get the Tears for Fears version. Otherwise, you might be disappointed. But maybe you'll really dig it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, when I started listening to that song and you kind of hear some of the part, like all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. But maybe we'll wait.
We'll save some of that
songs for that. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I have not done my proper due diligence and or homework and really got into the Hurting as much. But I know that this was, I don't know if I want to say a bit of a departure from that, but I think they were trying to do something a little different.
They were. That was my understanding. I don't think it was just them. I think the record company, they were definitely pushing them to be a little more mainstream, to have a little more, I think, of a big guitar sound is kind of what I was reading. And, they definitely do that on some of these tracks, but you do get a variety of sounds on these tracks too, I would say.
Dude, you do. And honestly, there are a couple, I guess more than one song, and maybe we'll get into these more when we talk about the songs, but there's more than one where I think if you had a dictionary entry that said like the recording sound of the 80s, like this is it so perfectly characterizes it, like some of Phil Collins stuff, and I mean it just everything about it. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on that was kind of a bummer for me is I was hoping to be able to find out some of the instruments they used on this, because there were some interesting things that got introduced into the mainstream is the wrong word, but I'm just going to say like recording spaces and professionals at that time that were like a big deal. And some of the stuff that I hear on this album reminds me of that. Okay. So I guess this is probably as good a time as any to tell people, if you know this album, like this album, please go ahead and
like, subscribe, and comment below.
Because I would really like to know if there's anything you know about some of the instruments that were used, any recording techniques. I just was not able to find a lot about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, for such a kind of a classic album, there's not as much information out there as I didn't scour the internet by any means, but I was hoping for a little more. So if there's like a documentary or anything out there about Tears for Fears,
I listened to a few interviews.
That'd be great.
And it was more like about the process than anything technical. And one thing that I did like, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but he said that it becomes kind of cliche for people to like not be appreciative or not really like something that they just put out because they're working on something new. And as much as that can irritate the fans, his point was from the artist's perspective, you have to do that as a new form of creativity so that you don't recreate what you did before. And I thought that was a really poignant line.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you've definitely seen when some bands do that because you get the same shit over and over and over again. Where it's like, yeah, it is cool when you see a band and they're like, okay, hey, we got this album out. And that's why I think we're kind of big into albums too, is it like it kind of marks a certain sound or time and place. And then, and then there's the next one and the next one. And you can kind of see the progression of that in the artist's work. And, you just have an understanding of, oh, that's what they were doing at this time. And then they moved and did this and this. And those are the types of bands I think we kind of gravitate to a little more.
But it's interesting with a band like this, because although, I mean, I think this is a really good album, awesome album. They're not one of those bands that to me I would gravitate toward in the same way as some of the others. And I didn't hear about this, like I was saying, until I was adult. And there was a guy that I was recording some albums with, Greg, and he was like, dude, you got to listen to Songs for the Big Chair, like from the Big Chair, the whole album. And I did. Yeah. And I was kind of, you're like, I get it. It is like, you put that up there with like some Peter Gabriel albums and some other stuff. And like, that is the sound of the 80s.
Dude, the one that really reminds me of, and I know we have huge fans out there. We got a lot of fans from talking about this band, but Depeche Mode, right? This, a lot of the instrumentation or orchestration has that similar feel and sound. Like I really feel like they're in the, they're playing in the same house.
I hear what you're saying.
And one thing is that when and we said this, I think with Depeche Mode, but there were a few times within this Tears for Fears album that the band that really jumped out and stuck out to me, that is the modern day band, was Nine Inch Nails. Like there's just some instruments and little things going on in the background. And I'm like, dude,
it's like the predecessor for that, because it's kind of like early electronic music. I mean, MIDI had come out, and this is where I was kind of going is, I recently was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about this synthesizer called the Fairlight CM1, I believe. And that meant like computer music or something. But dude, it was this keyboard thing from the 80s, and it had the freaking 5 1/4 floppy disks that you put in for samples, and it would sample it on the keyboard and you could play it. And this is like pre-Casio, like this thing where I have here where I can just be like, sample. Yeah, and it just sample. But this was like pre that stuff, and everything was on a computer, and they had this pen you could select it with, and you could make beats. And like one of the biggest 80s sounds that I can't get over is, that orchestra hit that's like, you hear it so many times in this album. I mean, it just sounds like a full orchestra just hitting it once, one note real quick. It's such the 80s sound, dude.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's one of those things. I think some people probably look back on that a little bit, and I do think in general it's a generational thing, but people will look back on the 80s and sort of like how cheesy things are, like how people dress and their hair and everything. But then there's a certain romanticism to it, dude, as well, right?
It's nostalgia, man.
Yeah. And but you just need time for it to become nostalgic, right?
Yeah.
Because like in the 90s when we were kids, like that was not cool.
No.
Like it wasn't, not for us. But now we're like, that's badass.
But I'm going to get into some things on this album, maybe a few, not like a whole lot, but that kind of defied the time in a way, at least as to what was cool. Because in the 80s, what was cool was like electronic drums that look like hexagons or octagons, and like synthesizers, and like not a lot of kind of organic instruments that had this natural warmth. Yeah, everything had this enormous space, it just, gated reverb. Do I need to say more? Gated reverb.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But what we probably do need to say is, hey man, since we didn't have a lot of information out there, like we were saying earlier, let us know as you go. He goes.
Oh yeah,
the cat.
Yeah.
Let us know if there is more information out there, and just a good place to check it out for. Because I'd love to know more about just this. This was their second studio album, came out in 1985, and I mean, dude, for a sophomore release. Pretty solid, man. Dude. A lot of people talk about the sophomore slump. Like, this ain't it.
No. This is basically like you just made your, almost your greatest hits album.
Yeah.
But it just happens to be a regular album that you made.
Which is kind of cool. I'm ready to get into the tracks if you are, Graham.
Yeah, I would say so, dude.
Okay.
I would say so.
Okay. Well, dude.
The biggest one first.
Dude. Shout. Yeah, this is one that I had, big hit, definitely knew growing up. And I just think it has such a, it's a big sound. It's a powerful sound.
Oh yeah.
Lyrically, it's pretty straightforward. But the to me it just has such a big feel, and his vocals, their vocals,
really good.
That's what resonates with me, man. Just the way is
now great. I guess I read something that they compared it to like kind of the huge like vocals on like Hey Jude and stuff, where they did the shout, and it sounds like it's really big doing it, which I thought was really cool. But did you also read, and I believe it's this song, that is actually kind of about primal scream therapy? And
is it?
Do you know about that with John Lennon?
Yeah, John Lennon,
dude,
is into
yes,
that. Yeah. I mean, Cold Turkey, right?
Yes,
that's what he's doing in Cold Turkey. Yeah.
Actually, probably in more than one spot on that album.
I mean, dude, Yoko has been doing it for years.
Oh yeah, she basically mastered it and wrote the book.
But she did.
But it's interesting because a lot of it, I guess it talked about like a lot of it kind of relates to like these things that you had no control over that were kind of instilled in you as a child, and being able to like get past that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, well, at least as far as it goes with John Lennon goes, has to do with his upbringing. His mom, I think, passed away when he was at a very young age. So I think that's where, like, people, some of those intense emotions, that's where some of that comes up from.
Yeah.
Now, dude, I don't know if you read this, but I found this to be very interesting. Dude, there are at least 15 different versions / remixes of this song that have officially been released under their name.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I think they did different radio versions. I think they did.
Because dude, the version's over 6 minutes long on the album. I mean, they had to cut that down for the radio. They just had to.
Yeah, and I think they did different versions for the music videos. So yeah, definitely. And then I think there's like a dub version somebody did. And,
I would like that.
Mm-hmm. But. I did say something earlier about sort of I heard a lot of like Nine Inch Nails influence in certain parts. I mean, there's obviously a large difference, but dude, in the middle of this song, there is a breakdown that reminds me of the end of Closer, when it's like, right at the end of Closer, when it just really picks up and stuff.
Yeah,
dude, there's like a breakdown in the middle of this song that has that, and I was just like, wow, man, dude, I loved it.
There's a part where the Hammond organ comes in, and they kind of switch the Leslie, and it goes fast and slow, and it's a brief little thing, but it's interesting because at this time that instrument was in no way like en vogue. I mean, nobody cared about the
Right.
Hammond organ. Like everyone they wanted like the Roland DX7 or, you know, like whatever the
Sure.
hottest synth was. Like nobody cared
yeah.
about that kind of stuff. So I thought it was interesting that they threw it in.
Definitely. No, I think that is cool. So I think we move on to track number 2,
Yep.
The Working Hour, which is a stark contrast to Shout.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it comes in very jazzy, got this sax intro. And there's even, I couldn't tell if it was a harp or if there's a synth sounding like a harp.
Yeah, probably.
You know, so, but anyways, there's a
Fairlight
sound like
CM1.
that.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, when I was actually listening to the album, because this is I think one of 2 songs that was not released as a single on the
go
album.
figure.
So,
Yeah.
so I wasn't really as familiar with this song. And part of me was like, wait, did it like, do I have this on shuffle? Did it
Yeah.
like jump to a different album of, you know, something
Yeah.
like that? So it's something I had to actually check.
You know, something I actually had to check about the song is, was it on the MacGruber soundtrack? Because in all honesty, dude, when I listened to the beginning of it and it comes in with like this synth and the saxophone, like I pictured that scene where like MacGruber's the shadow playing the sax.
It's the opening credit scene. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I mean, I actually looked and verified that it was not. And in all honesty, I thought to myself, like, how is it not? I don't really know.
How am I not myself?
How am I not?
Yeah, and I will say, like, you know, again, something they do and kind of do throughout this album, and I guess maybe it was sort of an 80s thing too. The vocals are just so full, man.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so full. They're right there, and it has this
space.
Space behind it, dude. Exploring the shit out of the
Oh,
space.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of my take on that track.
Everyone,
Track number.
everybody,
Yeah,
wants to rule.
everybody wants to rule the world. Now, this is
this the
a
biggest
song that
hit?
I think. Dude,
I
I don't know. That's tough, man.
I know because
really-
Shout's pretty big.
Shout, and here's the thing with Shout, man. You want to know the image? I don't want to go back too far, but what I really think of, I can think of like that song being played in the gym, like in the 80s, and just these dudes are on these Nautilus machines.
Dude,
They're just like throwing iron around, just like dude, just let it all out. Just let it all out. Just shout, you know, and you know, just getting swole. But everybody wants to rule the world probably wouldn't be played in the gym. This one actually,
At least
is,
not back to back.
not back to back. This one actually, I feel like they change it up a little bit with sort of the big sound of like a song like Shout or anything, and the space sort of behind the voice. They sing it just differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This could be. It was the 3rd single, and I think the first single in the U.S. in this song really put them on the map. Really put them on the map here. I believe I read that correctly.
Wow.
I'm sure super fans will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was a big one in the U.S. and really put them on the map. So it was originally written though, dude, as Everybody Wants to Go to War. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes, exactly. So there you go.
Interesting. Mother's Talk, dude.
Yeah, they do. Mother's Talk. Now, this is the first single, 4th in the U.S.
And that's interesting to me. It wouldn't have been my choice for dude, Shout is you could easily cut a single length version, which I'm absolutely sure they did, of Shout.
I'm sure one of the 15.
And that's the single. I don't know how this was number 1. Just saying. I'm not going to throw out a WTF-ITS, but I'm close.
Right. Well, it was interesting because they did actually, I don't know if you were able to watch any of the music videos, very, very 80s music videos.
Yeah.
But so this song actually had 3 different videos shot for it. The first one, they kind of just didn't like. And the second one, this guy, his name is Nigel Dick. He did the first one he did the second one. And then when they did a US like remix release, they did a separate video for that one as well. So and he did both of those. Now, what's his name? Roland Orzabal?
T Flag Pfizer. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He actually said or admitted I don't know, to a news newspaper or magazine or whatever. He just said that it was an unsuccessful attempt to sound like the Talking Heads. Now,
oh wow! For that song.
For that song, because I didn't hear that.
No.
There's another song that I do hear that, and I'll talk about that actually in a little bit later.
I think
but not this song for me.
Okay, that's interesting. So flip the record, man.
Yeah, it's a short one, so we're going to side 2.
I mean, all the songs, or most of them, other than Broken, are pretty long.
They are, yeah.
But anyways, I believe.
But yeah, I believe I can fly.
You know, the one thing that I don't understand about I Believe is at the end of it, when he has that line where he talks about like a casino and people start clapping.
I don't remember that.
Oh, it's in there. It's kind of weird. I don't.
Oh, no. Sorry. Yes. Okay. This is what. Never mind. Sorry. This is what happened, dude. So I believe, Grim, that this was actually taken from a live recording. It was like a live re-recording. There was something. It didn't make sense from everything I was reading because it sounds really good.
Yeah.
But that's where when the people start clapping, that is from a live recording apparently. So I thought that was a little strange myself.
Yeah.
And so please let us know, because I went to the like the wiki page for this song, and it was just kind of strange how they described it, and that it was like, I think, a live recording from a show.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is if you're talking about like Head Over Heels into Broken, which we'll get to.
Into Broken, yeah, we will.
Also, yeah. So,
well, this song, I Believe, it does kind of flow right into Broken, which is kind of cool.
Not the Nine Inch Nails version.
Not the Nine Inch Nails version. Well, dude, the interesting thing about Broken is it was actually, I believe, previously recorded as a standalone B-side for a song called, I believe, Place Shelter. I don't know if that's right, because I have a feeling I got autocorrect on my notes. But a song that was on their first album, this was actually a B-side. Now they recorded a different studio version for this album of it. I believe that's kind of what the deal is.
But see, here's what I really like about this. Now, we could honestly do an offshoot segment, which in the old days we would have, but no one would have listened to, called like the songs have to go together or something like that. Dude, Heartbreaker into Livin' Lovin' Maid. I mean, dude, this is like that. The way Broken goes into Head Over Heels and then Broken reprise, but that's a live version. I really like that. I think that is such a cool idea that I don't think anyone else has ever done.
Well, and I think how they how they described it was, I think they had Broken, and Head Over Heels sort of evolved from that, because in Broken you hear the motif, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say that they tease it with that, and then they have that end line. It's funny how time flies. It goes from both of them, which I think is so cool.
Well, and here's the thing: I had no idea that because I had heard Head Over Heels, and I probably had it on a greatest hits or whatever I was listening to. So I just knew, like, I didn't know it had this kind of tease and this flow going right into it. But I mean, dude,
it's so awesome.
This song live has got to be badass, because it's got to be a long, like, amazing version. Because there's just those parts in there, especially with the really, like, the guitar playing and stuff. That I bet they could just go off, man. I bet it's pretty badass.
I agree.
So.
If you've seen it, let us know, because I think it would be sick.
Let us know.
So
it's time to know. So, and then obviously it goes into Head Over Heels, which, dude, I don't know. I don't know if this is their most popular song or off the album. I know we talked about that. Is this your favorite Tears for Fears song?
Without question. But to me, it's got to be the whole sequence. It's got to be Broken into Head Over Heels. that goes into Broken Reprise.
Back into Broken.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It just, that is such an awesome sequence. It's like if I'm listening to the album, I would rewind that 2 or 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
I say rewind
right?
like you can't just skip back. But anyways, you know what I mean. Be kind, rewind.
Well, and dude, like you were saying earlier, like, again, I think I had heard this song, but when I watched Donnie Darko,
you really listened to it.
I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Yeah. But it's cool, man. So the director of Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly, he said that the scene, that kind of slow motion scene and everything, school. He was like, he said it was specifically choreographed to this song. And I was just like, man, that's pretty cool.
I believe it. It's so perfect.
It's probably one of my favorite like song montages in any movie. I put it up there with Sister Christian scene in Boogie Nights.
Dude,
which is just incredible. But this is definitely top 5 song to scene. Yeah. In any movie for me, that's for sure.
Or what's the one?
Final track.
What position position was in?
Lebowski?
From Lebowski.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good scene. I just dropped in to see what position my position.
Like it's like the acid flash, but with Saddam.
Oh, yeah.
Saddam in his bowling shoes. That's a good one. It is a good one.
So, dude, listen. I honestly think it's kind of a weird song. I mean, let's face it. It is more
very.
It might be more 80s than anything.
Dude,
if there was a song named 80s, this would still be more 80s than it. But dude, there's something about at the end that I really like when they're like, yeah.
Dude, here's the thing though. This is the song that I was like, you know what? This to me is very Talking Heads. Like sort of I
kind of figured you would say that. Yeah.
Because I forget where the Talking Heads, where did they go to do Remain in Light, where they were like 2 of the members were married and they wanted Jamaica? To get away. And was it? I want to say it was like the Dominican, maybe. I forget. I forget. If you guys know, let us know.
Please go back to that episode after you go ahead.
Yeah, like, subscribe, and comment below.
Yes. But this really reminded me of that sort of
I can
Talking
see that.
Heads kind of
but
thing.
It's just happier.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Koyaanisqatsi too, because the lyrics
are got spacey, yeah, Koya, yes.
Yeah. Just happier.
So, happy. All right. This is the point in the album, folks, where we don't like to do it, but we got to.
But we have to.
Yeah. I think we got to scratch it with like a chair. How about that?
Oh yeah,
the leg of a chair.
Yeah, the leg of a sharp little leg. Okay.
So we got to pick our song, Grim. I think I'm going to put you on the team, my friend.
Oh man. Well, I'm typically not a betting man. I don't make enough to just toss it away. But if I were to bet, there's a big part of me would say, go ahead and ring the overtime buzzer because I'm scratching, I believe.
Whoa. No.
Oh, no. Reversal. I got to make a sound effect for that now. Okay.
So give me some insight. Give me your reasoning for scratching, I believe.
Okay, well, dude, okay, to me, it was between I Believe and The Working Hour, because Listen is too trippy. Like, for the reasons we just talked about, I can't scratch Listen, because it's just such a interesting way to go into something after Broken to Head Over Heels to Broken. I mean, that's such an awesome sequence.
Yeah.
So between the two of those, when I listen to The Working Hour, I'm filled with smiles because I think about MacGruber, even though it's not on the soundtrack. That's where my mind goes. So I want to keep that because I just want to picture him playing the sax, like standing on his Miata, when he pulls out like his Blaupunk stereo. Yeah, dude.
He's a fucking genius, MacGruber. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So what's yours?
Okay.
KFBR
the reason
392.
Yeah, but no. My counter to I Believe is I do like. I do like starting the second side. I think I do the way the intro is. I think it's a good way to start the second side.
I accept.
On records, you got to flip. On a CD, I might be inclined to agree with you though. Just saying.
Interesting point.
Yeah, but
the medium of our generation.
I'm going to go with the one that you would have gone with, the Working Hour. MacGruber aside, I just think to me it is just. It stands out on the album. It is so just like jazzy and saxophone. Like it's to me it's a little much.
Well,
it's just a little much,
that's
and I'm sure
fair.
it'll piss some people off. But
no, and I can't disagree with your point. But I will say something from MacGruber when Kristen Wiig is dressed up as MacGruber going into the coffee shop. So, dude, MacGruber would never do that.
I thought you were going to say when she was like, "Oh, you just look really pretty," dressed up as me. It's pretty good. All right, who's got the celery?
Yeah, well, dude, I guess with that, not what I expected, but I get it.
Songs from the Big Share is officially scratched. Now, everyone, let us know below
subscribe, comment
what track you would scratch if you had to.
Yeah,
it's just how we play. Also, let us know your favorite track on the album. Like, I mean, there's some good ones, man. Like some really, really good ones. So I think that's a warranted explanation as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. So with that, all right, it's time to go.
It is time to go. The Dude and Grim.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE and the Tims TIMNZ. Copyright 2020 to The Dude and Grim Show.